Heyo, this is a new episode of We Talk. I said before in a previous episode that we were going to talk about Battlefield 4, but I wanted to actually finish the campaign, make sure that the game no longer crashes, and I'm happy to say that those two updates that I was doing actually fixed the crashing issue. I was able to get through the entire campaign. But today, we're not going to just talk about Battlefield 4, we're also going to talk about Call of Duty Ghosts. In fact, Battlefield 4 versus Call of Duty Ghosts. Which game is better, and which one I have more fun with. So I kind of want to go into the single player first because, that's sort of the thing that pops into my mind when I start talking about how good a game is first. I did a whole episode of We Talk on Call of Duty Ghosts. I said that I didn't really like the single player of Call of Duty Ghosts, mainly because it didn't feel like a Call of Duty or single player. I don't think that the level design was given enough love. I think that they missed a lot of good opportunities with Riley specifically. The game was it didn't leave me satisfied, and at the end it was, it kind of left the door open for a possible other Call of Duty game to come out. I don't think the story was a bad story. I think it was a good story to a point. It was very cliched, and, the level designs were so quick. Some of the maps were, or some of the, levels were actually like 3 minutes long, and even some of the more hyped up missions, like the space mission later on in the game, was like 3 minutes long. And even on the veteran, which didn't really to me present a lot of a challenge, it actually was easy. The veteran mode was actually easy, and that to me isn't a very good game when your hardest difficulty is actually easy to get through. Battlefield 4 had I don't want to say it had a better story. I think it had the same kind of story. I mean, I feel like the ending of the game kind of was, again, it was like, well, okay, I guess that's good. I don't think that the ending was all that great, but the game does do something that Call of Duty Ghosts does not, and that presents you with a choice that opens the door to actually 3 possible endings. Now, those endings are very, gripping. I actually had to really think about the decision, but at the same time, you're actually forced to make one of 2 decisions. And if you wait so long, then a third option is going to be given. So you actually have to make a decision within a time limit, otherwise something else is going to happen. So it's not like you could sit there for an hour and actually debate whether this decision is better than this decision. You actually really got to make the decision quickly, like you would in that situation. And I thought that was really cool. Now, mind you, the cutscene that followed the ending wasn't all that great, but it was like the same thing with a different voiceover. That's fine, I guess. Again, the game isn't really there to be, an awesome storytelling game. I thought it was a little bit better than Call of Duty, but not that much. Like I said before, the story... I also think that the Battlefield 4 single player also suffered from the same thing Call of Duty Ghosts did, which was very missed opportunities. There's one incident in the game, and I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to spoil it, but there's one incident in the game where something happens, and I'm like, oh, that was good if it happened later in the game and actually stayed that way. Something happens in the game and then it immediately gets reversed in the next level. I thought that was kind of dumb. I thought they missed an opportunity there. I think that what they should have done, and I know I'm talking very vaguely here, but I don't want to spoil it for the people that have not seen or have not played the game, but people who have played the game probably can figure out what I'm talking about, is that something happens in the game where it's very surprising that I kind of saw coming, but I didn't really see coming, that I kind of was hoping wouldn't come. And then it got reversed in the next level. I wish that it happened later in the game where that thing actually happened, but then it stayed that way. I think that would have been a lot cooler, and then you actually are forced to make a decision in a different way at the end. I think that the Battlefield 4 single player actually was benefited by the fact that their level designs were actually given a lot more love. It actually took me a good amount of time to actually get through each individual level, and I liked it. I actually think that because of the gameplay and level design and the fact that it presents you with with an option at the end of the game, I think Battlefield 4 has a better single player. Now, as far as what the games actually look like in terms of graphics, I actually think that Battlefield 4 actually looks better. I know that Call of Duty Ghosts is now next gen, and I have even noticed while playing the multiplayer that some of the things are actually a lot prettier. But I still think that with the facial animations of the characters and there were a couple of moments in Call of Duty Ghosts where I actually looked at the animation of the dog. The game was built off, the animation of the dog. The dog had its own motion cap dog. But there were some moments where I looked at the dog and I was like, well, that looked weird. The dog would, sort of slide, kind of, but not really like walk. Like, I was like, if the dog was really there, he wouldn't be moving like that. Battlefield 4 looked a lot prettier. I liked the way that, the sun comes through and the glare off like the trees and stuff. And I don't know, I really like the lighting, the graphics in Battlefield 4, and not just the single player, but in the multiplayer and things like that. So I think that the Battlefield 4 looks like a better looking game, but it actually does look almost exactly like it did in Battlefield 3. But even then, it still looks better than Call of Duty Ghosts. And that's just my opinion. I think that the multiplayers are both really good in both games, but they're both two different multiplayers. Call of Duty Ghosts is a multiplayer that has been the same forever, but people still buy it for that reason. If you want to get Call of Duty Ghosts only because you want to play the multiplayer, fine. It's a good multiplayer. Go buy it. Mind you, I think the maps are a little too big and not enough people to fill it, so you'll sometimes be running around looking for somebody, and the first thing you'll see is a bullet coming through your face. I think that Battlefield 4 has a huge map with 64 people to fill it, and that is awesome. But Call of Duty Ghosts has a very different multiplayer than Battlefield 4. That is, you go in there with like 12 to 18 people, and you just fight, run around, kill people, get your kill death ratio to be good, and then that's it. You play the game for like 10 minutes. Battlefield 4 actually feels like a battlefield. The game is called Battlefield for a reason, because you actually feel like you're on a battlefield. It's, like I said before, it's huge maps with 64 players, 32 players on each team, and you have tanks, you have helicopters, destructible environments, and, of course, the graphics look awesome, and the sound actually sounds good, and it just looks absolutely awesome, and playing it for like 20 minutes, my favorite mode in Battlefield 4 is actually Conquest, because it actually utilizes the whole map, and you have to actually fight for multiple points here and there. I think that that's really, really, really awesome. Just how like it feels like a huge war zone where like a tank rolls up and then you try to like get behind buildings and then the tank blows out the wall and then you have to go upstairs. Or even one of the cool things, one of the cool experiences that I have, and I'm actually going to share this actually. I was in a helicopter, and then the helicopter they started beeping because a missile got locked on. So I jumped out, like the helicopter actually was starting to land. I jumped out and then I hit the ground, and then the helicopter got hit. But it didn't blow up right away. It actually went down. It started going nose first into the ground. And the rotors, I was trying to avoid the rotors. Like, all I just see is the rotors going right over my head. And then when the thing exploded, the fuel catches fire, and I'm actually cut off. Before I could even get to where I wanted to go, I got cut off on the fuel, and I had to find another way around. At the same time, there was another tank on the opposite end of those flames. So I had to actually run across to get to cover. That is absolutely awesome, and you can't get that in Call of Duty Ghosts. I think that I have a lot more fun in Battlefield 4 than I do in Call of Duty Ghosts. That is just me. They're two very good multiplayers, but they're two very different multiplayers, and I just simply have more fun in Battlefield 4. I think the achievements in Battlefield 4 are a lot more challenging than they are in Call of Duty Ghosts. I have not played the game on hard yet. I do plan on doing that, but I think that all the achievements that happen in the single player are actually a lot more challenging, that are actually going to force me. I guess you could actually go through the game with actually getting those achievements, but it may or may not actually take you a couple of tries. But for Battlefield 4, for me, I actually am going to have to go back. But for Call of Duty Ghosts, play it on Veteran the first time, play it on getting after all the collectibles, going after all the achievements. There's one achievement per level, and sometimes there's even two per level. Well, not every level, but there are some in a level. There are two in some levels. And you can easily get that through one run-through. Battlefield 4, I feel like, has a lot more challenging. So the replayability of the game is a lot better, especially for me, because the multiplayer is going to pull me in. I have to play the game again on hard, but I do have to kind of give that to Call of Duty Ghosts, because I did play the campaign twice to go through normal and then veteran. But I think that all the achievements in the single-player campaign, like even like the score achievements for each level, it's like you can't get a good enough score through one run-through. I mean, I could be completely wrong. You probably can. But for me, it's going to force me to actually play the game several times, or play that specific level several times, to get the score high enough to get the achievement for that particular level. So I think the achievements are a little bit more thought out. Also, for whatever reason, Call of Duty Ghosts has no multiplayer achievements aside from Safeguard and the Extinction maps. I honestly think that they should do that. Like, you actually prestige once, so it forces you to play the game a lot more and more, like, fiercely to actually, you know, and I say fiercely being more often to actually get to that level up high. Honestly, I actually still think that the replayability benefits Battlefield 4. So in all 4 categories, single player, multiplayer, graphics, and replayability, Battlefield 4 is actually going to be, to me, the one that actually takes the win. But I will give a sort of honorable mention to Call of Duty Ghosts for actually working at launch. The game it never crashed on me. It actually worked. Battlefield 4 suffered. Like, it was so bad that EA actually had to stop production on everything else. Or not EA, but EA and DICE. They had to make that a priority to make sure Battlefield 4 worked. I have to give props to Call of Duty Ghosts and Infinity Ward for actually making a game that works. Guys, don't try to hit the launch window if your game doesn't work. Me, as a fan, I would like the game to work when I get it, not have to worry about the fact that it may or may not crash. I had my Xbox. It was the first game that I put in, and actually worried me because the first game I put in after 2 matches, it actually crashed. I thought there was something wrong with my Xbox, and it worried me. Come to find out, it actually wasn't. But Call of Duty Ghosts, thank you for working at launch. Now, I want to take the moment to plug something real quick. I want you guys to go and check out game-boat.com. They do a podcast. Definitely go check that out. It's pretty awesome. They do a bunch of gaming stuff that includes live streaming. Really awesome stuff. It is run by Nessie Monster, whose name is Greg, and his friend Mike. They both run that show. And in a future episode of the Game Boat, what you're going to want to do is actually check it out when me and TJ was with me in yesterday's Let's Play in Injustice. The two of us are actually going to be in the studio audience of a future episode and actually stick around to the end, and you actually are going to hear me completely embarrass myself with the world's biggest misspeak. It's pretty awesome. Definitely go ahead, check it out. It's pretty awesome. Your lives will improve because of it. Other than that, guys, thank you for watching this episode of We Talk, and I will see you guys next week for a brand new episode.